How to build your trading account. Hi, it's Charlie giving you Thursday's video this week. I was in London yesterday and I've had a question come through saying, what advice would you give to building capital and getting a sizable account of your own cash over time instead of trying to go to one of these funded account schemes, which, as I've mentioned before, it's they're just good businesses for them, so your own real money. And so the question is, building a sizable account of your own cash over time so that you can trade with a good pot. Could you do a video on how you did it? Okay. Well, firstly, how I did it, you've got to bear in mind, I was trading, and this is what I recommend to most people, is trade on the side to your full-time job until you've got, if you really want to become a full-time trader without doing anything else, then you need to have the capital. You need to have a larger account. So if you're, as this question is, if you're, building capital and getting to a sizable account, so I'm assuming this is like many people trading with, starting off with a smaller amount of capital and then trying to grow it, as he's saying over time here. So coming back to my original point is your job. So I was fortunate that I had a high-paying, city career. So my capital that I was trading with was, bearing in mind I started in late 90s, was decent anyway. So what I already started with, bearing in mind I put 40k in when I very first started. Yes, I lost that because I was a beginner when I started 20 odd years ago, like anyone else. So, and I blew up my first account. But then I refunded and I added to the account. So this is the main thing. So I added to the account. So by the time I went full-time trading, I did have a reasonable amount of capital behind me. So I don't even want to go down the full-time trading side of things, because I think that for most traders, the best way you can trade without putting pressure onto yourself is to, have another another source of income and trade on the side of that. You can amalgamate it. I have lots of members who do a bit of both. They have some form of job or business interest and trade as well. So so we have quite a lot of people who are in that position. But anyway, I'm digressing because we're talking about starting off with a given amount of capital and then trying to grow that account over time. How can you go about doing it? Well, unfortunately, there's no substitute for time. Time is going to be a big factor here. The problem that we have is we live in an age where everybody wants everything now, and that's why people are being drawn towards these sort of funded things, which, as I've said many times over, they're good business models for those businesses. And it's the dream for the trader applying for them, and in many instances it's a waste of time and money for the trader. You might as well focus your time in growing your own account. So how do you go about doing it? Well, time is going to be a massive factor. It still was for me. It still took years to grow my capital to where I wanted it to be. So let's actually go through an example. So if we took someone with a 5,000 account, whether that's £5,000, euros, dollars, whatever. So let's just say, a 5,000, I'm in the UK, so I'll use £5,000 account. So, and let's assume that you average but you average 30% a year. Okay, 30% a year. So it might be that one year you make 50%, another year you might make 5% or whatever. I'm just trying to be relatively conservative, with regards to the sort of gains that can be made. Okay, it depends on how much you risk, and there's all these other factors as to how much you can make in any given year. Mostly it's due to how much you risk and how the trade frequency to an extent, but trade frequency doesn't equal necessarily more money. But there has to be a certain level of trading, of course, through a course of a year. So could you make 50%, 80%, 100% in a year? Yes, that's why I do the trading challenges, to show what can be done. But that's a trading challenge, and so that's more speculative. Would I trade that way on my main accounts? No. So again, for everybody, you have to find that sort of risk tolerance, and that attitude towards risk, i.e. how much you want to be risking per trade or whatever. That's very much a personal thing, and I would always recommend up to 1%, especially for newer traders. Even experienced traders, yeah, maybe they could go up to 2%, but that would be absolute max. You start going beyond that, even if you're an experienced trader, and I've proven it myself, that even an experienced trader will have a string of 10 losers in a row. So you've always got to say, right, okay, even as an experienced trader, at some point, I'm likely to have 10 losing trades in a row. Okay, so if I'm risking 5% per trade, whoa, it will happen at some point that I will have 10 losing trades in a row. So are you comfortable with having a 50% drawdown? You've got to ask yourself these questions. Too many people look at how much money they want to make, but they might be risking too much in order to get there. So that helps you to then identify the sorts of amount of risk that you want to take. Like I said, up to 1%, I think, is a general rule. Experienced traders probably up to 2% if they want to. But again, even an experienced trader, they're still going to have those periods where they could have 10 losing trades in a row. So, but let's go with at 30% per year. Okay. Now, like I said, you could do better than that. Comfortably, you could do better than that. But let's go with that. So 5,000. So year one, you're at 6,500. Year two, you're at 8,450. I think I just did the maths. Year three, 10,985. Year four, you're at 14,000. 14,280, something like that. And then year five, 18,500. So you can start to see, I'll just put 500. You can start to see, 18,000. If you started off with 5,000, then to get to 18,000, once you start trading with 18,000, that's a much more significant amount. I haven't done the maths to see. I'll quickly do it. 18,500. So if you did 30% on that, that jumps up to 24,000. And then 30% on that goes to 31,000. It starts to get more and more tangible as time goes on. But you've got to put in the time, and you're not going. Could you turn 5,000 into 20,000 in a year? Yes, you could, but you'd be taking on probably a lot of risk in order to do that. And so that's your issue. So my issue is do it a bit more slowly than maybe you're trying to do it. And I know that's tough, but that's the reality of trading. I don't want people blowing up. I get people messaging me continually and I love it, on social media and stuff, saying, oh, I just blew up an account on this, or da-da-da, And I just wish people could, be a bit more responsible with their risk management. Now, there's something else we can add to this along the way. If we've got a job, then hopefully we can top up from down here as well. So you've got gains made from trading, but you've also got that potential to add some savings that you may be building, or extra capital, surplus income from your job, from your career, which you could add in. So if we go back to that 5,000, if you could add in a given amount per year, I don't know, and I do appreciate it's very difficult for some people that they don't have that surplus amount of capital from their job. But if you can, then of course all of these figures get compounded. If you could put even an extra £500 per year in to your account, then it changes all of these numbers quite dramatically, because then you're compounding on that newer amount. So unfortunately, there's no magic pill. I could say to you, yes, of course, the ability to make 100% in a year is there, but to do 100% every year is less likely. So you can play around with these numbers here, but I think if you're thinking you're going to average 100% per year, you're probably it's doable, yes, but again, to someone who is less experienced, I'd say no, it's not. You're more likely, if you're trying to make or average 100% a year, you're probably gonna have a significant drawdown at some point. So, and then that could mess with your head and stuff like that. So you're better off just focusing on the process of trading. And if you were to average 30% a year, so yes, some years you might do 50%, and another year you might do 15% or whatever. Then that may be a better average to work on. Now, I'm not saying, and I know I'm repeating myself here, that you couldn't do a lot, significantly better, but I would rather that old adage, under promise and then potentially over deliver. But if you gun for 100% a year, 200% a year or whatever, then you are more likely, especially when you're newer to trading, you're more likely to just blow your account at some point, because you'll go and make a mistake somewhere along the line, or your mindset will mess up because you haven't got the experience. And so that's more likely what would happen. So my advice is do it slowly. See this as a long-term wealth creation rather than a get rich quick, as always. Yes, the gains are fantastic you can make from trading, but if you're starting off with a lower amount of capital, there's not really any magic pill to grow it other than hard work, and see it as something that's going to take years to build upon. And if you do it that way, you'll be amazed. Actually, you think, oh, 5 years time, that's such a long time. Yeah, but look back from where you are today to 5 years ago. It's not that long ago, is it? And yet you've traveled 5 years. So maybe just think about it in those terms and think, actually, 5 years, that will pass actually pretty quickly. So, and all of a sudden, you're at 18 and a half, let's say, maybe 20, maybe 25, maybe 30 or more in 5 years. And all of a sudden, starting out with the amount of capital that you may see as small right now starts to become much more significant, even within 5 years.